I sat here live and watched every second of the World Cup group stage. I woke up at 4 a.m. I ordered all of my food and I didn't shower for a week. I feel like that last part wasn't necessary. That's not the point. I can tell you every single thing that happened, and we start in Group A. Group A, which was supposed to be interesting and wide open. And it was, with the exception of one team. Qatar, they got 0 points. Despite the fact they're Asian champions, it turns out they wilted under the spotlight created by the hundreds of billions of dollars that were spent essentially to try and make them a good team. It didn't work. They got 0 points. This whole tournament started with Qatar being outplayed so dramatically by Ecuador that people were worried they weren't actually fully professional. Fortunately, we were greeted by a good opening match between Netherlands and Senegal that was only broken up late by the emergence of Cody Gakpo. More on him later. A very late goal from Klaassen turned that into a very good-looking scoreline for the Netherlands, even though it was an incredibly tight, competitive game. Then Ecuador and the Netherlands faced off in the second match day. They were at the top of the group at the same time, and this was a match that was characterized by Netherlands in the first half, Ecuador in the second half, and generally Ecuador looking better than the Netherlands for most of the match, which prompted a lot of concern and perhaps a lot of hope in the knockouts for the United States of America. Wow, America. Senegal had their turn beating up on Qatar. Qatar did, however, score their only goal of the World Cup, the only time that all of these guys that weren't from Qatar were able to celebrate behind the goal. How do we know they're not from Qatar? Because some of the Ultra fans had tattoos, which is really frowned upon in society there. So they just like hired dudes to, I don't know. I don't know how anything works over there, honestly. Whatever. Final day, the Netherlands beats up on Qatar. It was their turn. Woohoo! And that brought us to Ecuador and Senegal. Now, I would have bet the house that Ecuador was going to get a result in this game. Senegal was missing Sadio Mane. This guy, very important, very good player. Ecuador had also just outplayed the Netherlands in a way that Senegal had not. But Senegal are the reigning African champions, a tough team and a tough team to put out. They get a penalty in the first half, boom, score it, bag it, put a bow on it, throw it out. And Ecuador scores in the second half. Makes it 1-1 for all of 3 minutes when Kalidou Koulibaly scores his first ever goal for Senegal, the captain, to send them through to the knockouts without their talisman. Only the second time Senegal has ever gone to the knockouts, and the first African nation to go to the knockouts since 2014. None went in 2018. And Ecuador, despite looking very good and being one of the 3 youngest teams at the tournament, they're out. That sucks. At the end of all of these, we're going to show you the group table. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Oh, yeah. Look at that table. Oh yeah. Group B is where you find the United States of America, England, Iran, and Wales. A group that was actually supposed to be the group of death because all 4 teams were in the top 20 in the world, and because the United States and Iran had to play each other. And Iran almost went home early. They played the first match and England ran them off the field. I had made all these preview videos, that one about Iran, and said that they were going to be a tough team. They almost knocked out Spain at the last World Cup. They almost knocked out Portugal at the last World Cup, but they didn't, and they got blown out by England. The United States played a barnstorming first half against Wales in their opening match. The Welsh, at their first World Cup in 64 years, well, they played a good second half. Got a penalty for Gareth Bale. He put it away. He finally scored his World Cup goal. It was his hero moment. Unfortunately for the Welsh, it was their only moment, basically, because Iran and Wales matched up in a match that after the first performance, which was bad, you figured Iran was going to get outplayed again, but they actually took it to the Welsh, dominated them the whole game. Eventually, aging wonder Wayne Hennessy got sent off for a direct red card for absolutely obliterating Mehdi Taremi coming off of his line, and Iran scored 2 goals in the 98th and 90-11th. 101st minute, which is stunningly normal at this World Cup, because if you haven't watched it yet, they're giving way more stoppage time. It's part of this like hill time wasting off sort of thing. They've backed off on it recently, but the first couple of games was like 15 minutes of added time, and I've got places to be. Then England and the United States played, and soccer won again with a resounding 0-0 victory. I just want you to know, because most of you don't call it soccer. I don't care what you call it, and I never will. So then in the old football match, Wales and England woke up the corpse of Marcus Rashford. Apparently, he's back, scored 2 goals, including a banger free kick, and the United States played against Iran. Christian Pulisic sacrificed his manhood to score the only goal for the United States in that game, and I am not kidding. He actually did. He is day-to-day with a pelvic contusion. Ow. That goal for the United States put them in second in the group, unbeaten. England won 2 of its 3 games and qualifies in first place. Goodbye to Iran and Wales. See you in 64 years, Wales. I'm so sorry. On to Group C, where Argentina was going to cruise to... Oh. There's that. The upset that got the World Cup up and running, Saudi Arabia down 1-0 at halftime. Argentina had roughly 75 disallowed goals in the first half, only for Saudi Arabia to score 2 goals, including a Salim Al-Dawsari masterclass bend-it-like Beckham strike to give Saudi Arabia the lead, which they promptly defended. In the other match, Mexico and Poland played what could aptly be described as and Ochoa saved a penalty off Lewandowski, who looked like he might never score at the World Cup. But I have good news for him, he did, because Poland beat Saudi Arabia, who came crashing back down to earth like crypto. Argentina also beat Mexico after going into the half tied at 0, thanks to Lionel Messi cracking open the safe from outside the box in the 64th minute, because Lionel Messi is still a god. This brought us to a final match day where every team could be eliminated, and 3 out of the 4 teams could finish in first place in the group, which is fabulously interesting. And then somehow it got even more interesting. See, the first half, it was 0-0 because every first half at this World Cup is 0-0. But in the second half, Argentina scored, then Mexico scored, then Mexico scored again, then Argentina scored. And this tied Poland and Mexico in points, goal difference, goals for, results between teams. You might be wondering what's next, and that's a little something called fair play. That is how many yellow and red cards you have accumulated, with red cards counting for 3 or 4, whether they're yellow card accumulation or straight red cards. Fortunately for Poland, they had 4 on the fair play score, and Mexico had 7. This meant that any goal in either game was going to change everything in every part of this math until Saudi Arabia scored, which weirdly enough was a goal that didn't matter at all, because if Mexico scored again, they were back in the same goal difference with 1 more goal for, and they would have gone through anyways. Mexico ended up being eliminated on goal difference, but for about 30 minutes, everybody was trying to figure out what fair play meant. And as a result, Poland sneaks through on that 1 goal from Saudi Arabia and what ended up being 2 less yellow cards in the group. Mexico is eliminated in the group stage for the first time in 44 years, and it's the first time that Mexico hasn't finished in the top 16 of a World Cup ever. For Poland, it's their first knockout stage since 1986, so that's cool. And Saudi Arabia finished last in the group while making an outrageous amount of noise. Oh, and Messi was safe after losing. He's safe. He's safe. Leave me alone. He's the GOAT. Stop. That was a close shave for Poland. You can get a close shave this holiday season thanks to the longtime sponsor of this channel, Manscaped. Everybody loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like a dessert this holiday season with the 4.0 Performance Package. There's a link with a discount down in the description, but let me tell you what you're getting. The 4.0 Performance Package is the perfect package for your package. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 with a smooth ceramic blade that reduces grooming accidents. That's thanks to an advanced skin-safe technology. This also includes the Weed Whacker for all your ear and nose hair trimming needs. How do you think I always look so ear and nose hairless? And that thing comes with a 360-degree rotary blade. You got the Crop Preserver. It's a ball deodorant. And the Crop Reviver body wash. Actual deodorant for not your balls. Nice. To save 20% and get free shipping on the Performance 4.0 package, hit the link down in the description. You'll thank me because you'll look like me, and who doesn't want that? Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. Now back to soccer balls. In Group D, I said this was going to be the most comfortable group out of all of them, and France and Denmark would go through. And I was right, because this is the final group standing, and clearly exactly what I said happened. See, in the first match day, France beat Australia 4-1. Tunisia held on for a heroic draw against Denmark, but things would still be normal. And then Australia got a goal from Mitch Duke, who plays in the Japanese second division, not the second division. He won the match for Australia, and then France beat Denmark in what was a pretty solid match. 86th minute goal from Kylian Mbappé, who is already one of the all-time leading goal scorers in World Cup history, and he's younger than I am. I'm gonna cry. This brought us to the final day, where all Denmark had to do was beat Australia, and then they didn't. And then all Tunisia had to do was beat France and have Australia not win. And then Tunisia beat France, and that didn't happen. France had a goal disallowed in the 125th minute that would have canceled out Tunisia's win, but at this point they'd already realized that Australia had beaten Denmark, and if Denmark had just freaking beaten Australia, Tunisia would have gone through in the most miraculous fashion ever. But now Tunisia has won its 3rd ever World Cup game against freaking France, and it didn't matter because Australia, the Socceroos, they're in the knockouts. I don't know. If you want to talk about I don't know, you just have to go to Group E, because that one got even weirder. This was Germany and Spain, and Japan and Costa Rica. And in the opening game, the intentions were announced. Japan beat Germany. They went down 1-0, which is the same thing that happened to Saudi Arabia, and then they scored 2 goals in the second half in quick succession. Ritsu Doan and then Asano with a top-shelf Landon Donovan-esque beaut to give Japan the 3 points. So we knew things were going to get weird. Germany's reeling. They missed the knockouts for the first time since 1938, 4 years ago. And then Spain blew out Costa Rica. So you're thinking, all right, 3-team group. But then Costa Rica shows up and beats Japan, and nobody knows what's going on. Spain and Germany play a classic match between two big teams that's pretty boring, but they end up drawing 1-1 anyways. Thanks to cult hero Nicholas Füllkrug, who I just knew I needed to mention at some point in this video. Guy was playing in the German 2nd Division earlier this calendar year. So on the final day, Costa Rica has 3 points, Japan has 3 points, Germany has 1, and Spain has 4. That means that there is a hypothetical scenario where Costa Rica and Japan both win and Spain and Germany are out. And for 3 minutes, that was actually happening. Spain and Germany both scored within the first 15 minutes of their matches, and I thought my live Twitch stream watch along of every match was going to be incredibly boring. If you want to join that, by the way, the link is in the description. But then Japan scored, and then they scored again. This all of a sudden put Spain in a position where they could be knocked out in the highly unlikely scenario that Costa Rica actually made a 2-goal comeback against Germany to go from losing to winning. It happened. Gelson Tejeda scored his first ever goal for Costa Rica as they really grew into the game in the second half. And then in the 70th minute, what is officially classified as an own goal to Manuel Neuer, a wild ball in the box that bounces all over Kingdom Come and ends up in the net. And until Kai Havertz scored in the 73rd, Costa Rica and Japan were going through, and Germany and Spain were going out. Germany went on to score a couple more goals. After the first one, Costa Rica had to keep going for it, open themselves up for the obvious counterattack from a much better team. But no matter what Germany did, it didn't matter because Japan was going to end up on 6 points, and Spain's goal difference was impenetrable because they beat Costa Rica by a touchdown. So that was it. Germany's out again. First time ever they've missed consecutive group stages, and their record of World Cup dominance just seems to be over. And when I say World Cup dominance, I'm talking in 19 World Cups they've played in, Germany has made the semifinals the last 4 13 times. They're that stupid good. They're the European Brazil, whether anybody else likes it or not. And they are struggling in a way that they never have, ever. All Spain needed to do was draw, and Germany was through. So if I was Germany, I would unfriend Spain on Instagram. Unfollow. It's unfollow. Then there's Group F, where Canada was at its first World Cup in 36 years. Out-XG'd Belgium to the moon, and it didn't matter because Michy Batshuayi's a meme, and he scored a goal. Morocco and Croatia got off to a boring start, but that picked up in the second match day because Morocco beat Belgium, and Belgium started to call, everybody on the team started to call everybody else old. It got awkward. Like, seriously, De Bruyne said they couldn't win the World Cup because they were too old, and then the defense said, well, I think our attack is too old. And they're 5 years old, actually. Croatia blew out Canada after Canada's coach said they were gonna F up Croatia, so that didn't happen, And then in the final match day, Belgium needed to beat Croatia in order to go through, and Croatia just said, how about another 0-0 draw? It was exciting, but it was a 0-0 draw. Romelu Lukaku had every chance to make it not a 0-0 draw. He personally had over 1.5 XG in 45 minutes, but he's Lukaku, so he didn't score. In the other game, Morocco beat Canada 2-1, as Canada will go into hosting the World Cup, still searching for its first ever World Cup point. That win puts Morocco top of the group and gives them 7 points, which is actually the most an African nation has ever gotten in the group stage, and puts a second African nation into the knockouts, alongside Croatia, who are simply unkillable. Belgium is out, and that means they'll probably not be ranked in the top 2 in the world for the first time ever, for whatever reason. The group stage has been absolutely crazy so far. It's definitely going to settle down in Group G, and it kind of did. Switzerland beat Cameroon 1-0, Bria Imbolo scoring the goal. Brazil beat Serbia after a tough Serbian resistance that lasted for more than an hour, and eventually Brazil won 2-0. So we're off and running, the 2 top potted teams with 3 points apiece. And then Serbia-Cameroon happened. You see, this was a game that Cameroon took the lead in. I didn't think Cameroon was going to be any good at this tournament. They qualified by seconds, not minutes, but they had the lead, and then Serbia scored 3 goals. They scored 2 goals in stoppage time in the first half, which makes sense because stoppage time is about half an hour at this tournament. And then they scored right out of the second half to make it 3-1. It looked completely over. Cameroon looked completely out of the game. But this is, of course, when Cameroon came in and scored 2 goals in 3 minutes, including, in my opinion, the goal of the group stage from Vincent Aboubakar, a chip of the highest order. Sumptuous incredulity by Vincent Aboubakar to make it 3-3. It was a ridiculous game that morning, and then Brazil played Switzerland in a match that finally they got a breakthrough in what I'm referring to as the butt goal, because the shot from Casemiro hit a dude's butt and then went in. And that's how Brazil won 1-0 to finish top of the group with 6 points. Or kind of, sort of, maybe, not really. Serbia and Switzerland played a freaking classic. 4 goals in the first half. Both teams had the lead in the first half. How often does that happen? This is one of my favorite international derbies. These 2 teams hate each other. Switzerland knocked out Serbia 4 years ago, and they did it again. They scored in the second half. Remo Freuler, brilliant goal in the second half. Excellent team goal. Ruben Vargas, little back heel, like, Ow. There's a couch there. But Vargas is better at it than I am, so that's how they scored the goal, and Switzerland won. So they're going to their 5th consecutive knockout stage at a major tournament, which is an incredible accomplishment that's only been matched by Argentina and France over the last decade, so good for them. Same old for Serbia. They make it and lose in the group stage again. Seems to happen to them every time. And then Cameroon-Brazil happened. Cameroon won. And the cruelest of all things, with Switzerland winning, you can see the group, it didn't matter at all. Cameroon was eliminated anyways. Vincent Aboubakar scored against Brazil, and one more goal in really either game would have actually given Switzerland the group win, which would have been shocking. The final group was Group H, Portugal, South Korea, Uruguay, and Ghana. And the first game between Uruguay and South Korea was a 0-0 draw that nearly put me to sleep because I was waking up at 4:30 every morning. Portugal-Ghana woke me back up. This was a fabulous match. Ghana's the lowest ranked team coming into this tournament. I thought they had no chance. And then all of a sudden, Portugal scores and the whole game wakes up. A nothing penalty that goes to Ronaldo. He takes the penalty very well. Then Andre Ayew scores. Then João Felix scores. Then Rafael Leao scores. And then Bukhari scores in the 89th. He does the freaking suey. And then Iñaki Williams comes up from behind on the Portuguese goalkeeper and nearly picks his pocket to tap a ball in to make it 3-3. He slipped. There's some slippery pitches out there. On the second match day, Ghana gets involved in another stunner. A match that Ghana goes out, takes a 2-0 lead. South Korea makes it 2-2. And then Mohamed Kudus scores his second goal of the game to make it 3-2 to Ghana. This sets up a showdown where Ghana's on 3 points. Uruguay and South Korea are on 1 point, all chasing Portugal, who beat Uruguay 2-0 with 2 second-half goals from Bruno Fernandes. Unless you ask Ronaldo, he might have gotten one of them, according to himself and just himself. That showdown was supposed to be revenge for Ghana. They got knocked out in 2010 by Uruguay because Luis Suarez handled a ball that was going in, forced a penalty that was missed, and all that nonsense. Well, they didn't get the revenge. Uruguay won 2-0, and it was a pretty straightforward match. But it took on some pretty big importance because in the other match, some weird things were happening. Portugal took a 5th-minute lead, and it looked like it was all over for South Korea, who had to win. And then South Korea won. Kim Young-Gwon, the center back that's not Kim Min-jae at Napoli, scored on a set piece. And then in the 91st minute, Son Heung-min made a pass through 3 Portuguese defenders to pick out Hwang Hee-chan, who scored maybe one of the most famous goals in Asian footballing history to beat Portugal and send South Korea to their 3rd round of 16 in the last 6 World Cups. Pretty good. That's right, a 91st minute goal that not only sends South Korea through, but knocks out Uruguay. So Ghana has the last laugh as they dance on Luis Suarez's grave, while also being buried themselves. But you take what you can get. Ghana actually gave up on trying to win the game with a few minutes to go and started to time waste because they realized that Uruguay needed one more goal. So there really was a serious dish served of revenge. And watching every second of all that action brings us to these final 16 teams. This is the knockout bracket: Netherlands, US, Argentina, Australia, Japan, Croatia, Brazil, South Korea, England, Senegal, France, Poland, Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, Switzerland. One of those teams is going to win the World Cup in 2022, and I'm going to watch every second of it. If you want to do the same, I'm watching along on Twitch. You can join me for the United States games. I'm at a local bar. For every other game, I'm at the battle station right here. We're watching the matches, and I would love to see you on Twitch. The link is down in the description. And if you want to compare what happened to my predictions, I do this tentatively. This video, those are the predictions I made. But tread lightly, okay? We don't know what happened when that was filmed.